Finance special meeting. Today is Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. The time is 5:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So just to recap where we are in the process, last week the Board of Finance received the Board of Selectmen's proposed agenda, and so then the Board of Finance schedules a number of meetings to go over individual budgets, and then at the end of our process we will have some deliberations and we'll then put forward a Board of Finance proposed budget. We will then have the public hearing on the budget, and then there will be a referendum. So we're in the start of the negotiation. I point this out because I got a number of alarming emails about the original proposed tax increase. So I just want to make sure people know that we have some time to work through and fine-tune things. So with that, next on the agenda is delegations. Delegations is when any member of the public can address items that are on our agenda this evening. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the items on the agenda, or, you know, the budget in particular? I don't want to make it too complicated for people. Seeing none, then we'll move on to new business. And so for tonight, the departments that we're going through is, first one is the building department. So we have a building department total increase of 1.56%. Most of the increases are all contractual, and the expenses haven't increased. I don't know whether anyone has any particular questions that they wanted, and I'm going to assume, Dan, you'd answer any questions if we have them.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Yeah.
So behind the budget, in the budget book, they have the description of any of the changes. So what we're looking at, just to review, the 2025 amended budget had a total budget of $329,780. We had the department head requested a budget for the 2026 of $344,922 after the Board of Selectmen met, and it was reduced to $334,922, or, as I said, an increase of 1.56%. Anyone have any issues with that? Questions? No? Okay, so then we are going to move on to the East Lyme Public Library. And if you could just state your name for the when you're public. Okay. Yeah, should point out we had our director of finance had an unexpected emergency, and so he had to leave. So some of the prepared material that
yeah, I always bring paper as a backup. I'm old-fashioned. I don't just do the electronic stuff.
Yeah.
Let me get my copy.
If you just give the account number, the 105.
The account number it's
150.
150 Community Services 295 East Lyme Public Library. Department number 420. All right, you're all set? My name is Lisa Timothy. I'm the director of the East Lyme Public Library, or as I usually say, I have the privilege of being the director of the East Lyme Public Library. It's the greatest job in the world. We, as a library, don't just do books. We do a lot of other things for the community these days. My assistant director is not here with the annual reports, but I was going to give you those so you could check those, a fuller idea of what we do, but I can get those later. This year we're asking for a bigger increase, not because we're spending more, but because we have a revenue issue. In the past few years, and if you look at page 1 of the handout I gave you, that side, you'll see that we're looking for a 9.16% increase this year. In the past 5 years, 3 of those years, we've come back and asked for less. How that's happened is that the health insurance estimate, we work different than other departments. The pension and our health insurance go through the town, but we're not a town department. We're a separate 501c3. And so what happens is Kevin, in this case, gives me the number for the health insurance and the pension. I put that in the budget. They send me a check for it. I send it back to them during the year. Most of the years, there's a little bit of a cushion there just in case, so we don't run out of money. And that's what our carry forwards have been in the past few years. And again, when we didn't use any of that, we asked for less money. I came back to this board and said, we don't need it. This year what happened is that Kevin found out the last week of June that our health insurance was going to increase $22,000 more than they thought it was going to, and the pension came in $3,000 more. So the increase that we got last year actually went away. We're operating this year on $2,000 less than we had last year. And that we still have to cover the inflated prices of things, health insurance, staff raises, and all of that. So it's been a very, very tight year at the library. I've pulled back on some of the nonfiction book ordering and some of the e-book ordering to make sure that we are stable through the end of the year. And that looks good. It's tight, but I'm making it work. Next year, we're not going to have that big carry forward. We're going to have a much smaller amount. And so that's the difference. When I figured out that this was going to happen in October, I met with Dan and Kevin, some members of the Library Board of Trustees, and we said, listen, the pension and the health insurance are driving me crazy. I don't have control over these numbers. If they're off in one direction, I have extra money. If they're off in another direction, like this year, I'm very short. We have been able to move the pension over to the town department, and they're going to handle that like any other department. The health insurance is a little more complicated, and so we're keeping a closer eye on that. So we are able to get that, at least the pension part, off of our budget and onto the town, so that if something goes wrong, it doesn't come out of our budget in a really negative way. So basically, we're not spending more. We just have a revenue problem, a carrying over problem. And I'll remind you that in those 3 years when we came back and asked for less money, we also got rid of a full-time position because we found a way to do it cheaper with part-time employees, which is now getting tight now that we're getting busier. Page 2, the other side of the handout that I gave you, is just complete transparency. The operating budget for next year, we're only looking at an increase of $25,000 on $1.2 million. I've kept it that tight. The problem is we don't have the carry forward that we thought we were going to, and so we're trying to figure out how to make that work. Other than that, we're not adding any new services. We can't add any new services. We're out of space. We cannot do much of anything until we have more room. Our door counts have been steadily increasing in the past 3 years, and our children's programs are off the chart. I've never seen it in the 20 years I've worked at this library. We have more kids coming in, and babies, especially with parents. We get up to 20 babies and their caretakers in that tiny little room regularly, a few times a week. In 2023, we had 34 kids programs in the summer. Last summer, we had 67, and they were busy all the time. So we are seeing a huge increase in use in what's going on. But again, we don't have room to add too many more programs. We're going to have to actually cut back on some of those this year and just get creative with what we're doing in programming-wise. I've also held off on spending money on ebooks. When you or I buy an ebook on Amazon, it's $20. When the library buys one, it's often $100, and they don't sell us the ebook. We get to lease it 26 times, circulate it, and then we have to buy it all over again. And this goes on all over the country. It's made our ebook expenses just completely out of control. So I haven't been spending the $6,000 that I set aside for that because I want to make up for some of the health insurance problems with the $6,000 there. And I don't want to play their game. We're working with the state legislature to get some sort of law passed that they can't, the publishers can't do business in Connecticut if they charge libraries different prices. We're hoping that Connecticut will be the first in the nation. There's 13 states working on that. So I've cut back on the ebooks, and we have a lot of ebook backlog. But there's nothing we can do about it. So we're working on the state level to conquer that. And one other, we got a gift 2 years ago. You'll see that our gifts and memorials were $80,000 back in fiscal year '24. We put that into CDs to get the interest rate off of that, and we're getting about $4,000 to $5,000 extra dollars a year from that. So we're doing everything we can to be fiscally responsible and make every penny count right now. And sadly, we've had a lot of gifts in memory of people. We've lost several longtime board members and people associated with the library. We usually take in about $3,000. We've taken in $4,000 in memory of people that we've lost. So there's a little bit more income there. Our budget's a little long, so I guess I'll open it to questions if there's any questions that you have.
I'm just going to recap for anyone following along. So the 2025 amended budget was for a total of $1,231,806. The Board of Selectmen proposed $1,320,000. So that's a 7.16% increase. That's where we're at right now. So one of the questions I just had was, I know the private foundation, can you tell me the size of that endowment now?
The endowments, it hovers, it was above $1 million with the stock market the past few weeks. It's probably well below that now. That is money that was set aside. It's been donated over 80 years. Some of it has been set aside strictly to be used for books. Some of it was set aside to be big ticket items. What we do is it's set up in a completely separate legal trust, and they have to give us 5% of what they have each year. The library is the only beneficiary of that trust. The checks that we get from the foundation range anywhere from $8,000 in the old days to about $45,000, $50,000 now. That makes up our book budget. I don't use a lot of town money to buy books. Most of the books at the library are paid for by the foundation. Doing that, they would like to get back to big ticket items. We've talked about trying to renovate the community center, and they would like to have the town pick up that book money. But I don't know how to do that without asking for a huge increase. So for now, I've kept that steady. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just, as we speak with every department,
Yep.
We're trying to find either alternative
Yeah.
revenue sources or ways to decrease expenses. So I just want to
Yeah,
see if there's
we've
any
never tapped into
opportunity.
that, and we've got it above $1 million. It crossed $1 million in 2020, and it's been going back and forth with the stock market. And like I said, we expect to get less from them this year. I don't think the stock market's going to bounce back right now, which means we'll have less book money.
Is there anything that precludes them from kicking in some amount for something other than books to address any of that?
They'd be very much opposed to that. That has always been set as we just take the what's set up, the 5% that they owe us each year. They've never dipped into that endowment, and that's why we have it. What sets our library apart from Old Lyme, Groton, New London, anywhere else is that we have that endowment. In years when we have not had when the budget referendum hasn't passed and we've had to wait a few months, we're able to keep books coming into the library because of that, because we have that. That's how important that is. And I suspect that with the budget the way it is this year, we may be back in that boat. So I would really like to save that money for books.
But legally, there's nothing that would preclude them.
I would have to check with a lawyer. I don't think so. I've read through the bylaws, but it would not be a popular move.
We're just
So,
exploring all avenues.
yeah. Yeah, I know it's a tough budget year, but I would hate to, there's such a legacy of conservative management of the money, and we have a fantastically funded library because of that, and I don't want to see that go down the drain, where we just start taking everything out of the foundation because the towns. I understand it's a hard budget year. I'm a taxpayer. I get it. I have kids in the school system. I understand it. We'll muddle through with what we get. I understand you've got bigger issues to deal with this year, but I would be very opposed to trying to dip into that. I would probably cut back even more on books and some of the hours that were open than dipping into that.
And
It's not up to me. It's up to the foundation. That would be my recommendation. I follow what they say, or the Board of Trustees.
And do you get donations of books from the public?
We get some, but the majority of our books are what we buy. What we often do is buy 10 copies of a bestseller. We get to a holds ratio. A holds ratio is how many holds you have for a book. And if we have more than 5 people waiting, we'll get another copy. For ebooks, it's 13 people waiting, then we get another copy. What we do is, though, when that bestseller has run its course and it's out, we sell those for about 3/4 of the price that we paid for them to get some of that money back. We pull in about $5,000 to $7,000 in used book sales. And strangely enough, we've been doing a brisk business in puzzles. People are coming to the library. We've become the place in town to get puzzles. And we've pulled in some money selling puzzles and doing stuff like that, too. So.
I notice sometimes when you go to Book Barn, when you have that, very popular book, they'll have 15 copies of it.
Yeah.
So do you know whether
Yeah.
there's...
No, we will buy that. We often buy at a discount, especially fiction books. We do get discounts from the publishers on print books, not on ebooks. Ebooks is the other direction. But like I said, we buy a bunch and then we sell them back to, for $3 to $5 and make back some of what we got on that. So it's more efficient that way. And we pull in about, again, $5,000 to $7,000 a year doing that. So.
Thanks for being so diligent with your managing the budget. You mentioned that ebooks and nonfiction books you've cut back.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of characterize what that means in terms of the proportion that you'll not be getting, and also if there is a change in what the state legislature, the law about how an ebook needs to be purchased, might you be coming back and asking for money to pay for the ebooks that you might get?
No, what I do for the ebook budget is I take it out of the book budget, and looking at proportion of how much of our print circulation versus electronic circulation and other factors. And if I was being honest, I would probably have to put more into ebooks, but again, I don't want to do that because they're ripping us off, and I don't want to misuse the tax money like that. But should they be successful at the state legislature, we'll be paying the same price as everyone else. We'll be paying $20 for an ebook instead of $100. And I haven't used any of the ebook money. That's something I'm trying to carry forward next year to another place I can do that. If they were to do that, then I would take whatever we have for next year's book budget and proportion part of that for the ebooks. For the nonfiction adult collection, those are often the most expensive books, and we don't get a big discount on those because they have a lot of photos and color pages and whatnot. They're much more expensive. We subscribe to a new database this year that analyzes East Lyme's circulation based on population and what kind of genres are going out. And we were able to drill down to find out which nonfiction books are the most popular. And we've been buying in those areas, but pretty much anything else ignoring, because part of what we get from the Lion system, the consortium that we belong to, is that if I'm not certain I want to buy a book and it's in Old Lyme and it's on the shelf, well, I don't need to buy it because I can get it here in a day or two. That's why we belong to Lion. Times like this, I can just look at hot items on the nonfiction list and the things that we circulate a lot and sort of let the rest of them go by, and that's gotten us through this year. So we're doing it with actual data this year instead of a feeling about what goes out. We have numbers to back that up. And for all of our circulation, but that's the one I've kind of narrowed in where we could save the money, because we can often get those books elsewhere in our Lion system for now. Does that answer your question?
And as a proportion of the whole nonfiction budget, what are you not able to get?
We're sticking with cookbooks, crafts. What else was on
I
that
meant
list?
the number, not a.
Oh, the number?
not a-
Usually we spend about $2,000 a month on adult nonfiction. And again, we get a lot less books than, say, spending $800 on children's, because children's books are little and they don't cost very much. This year I've kind of limited it to $1,000 to $1,200 to save a few thousand this year. So we're, certain things we have to get. They're just common sense, but other things, like I said, if I can get it in a day or two, we can let it pass until we're in a better shape. Okay? Yep.
Thank you. I see last year with the annual fund drive, you raised $35,000.
Yep.
Is that more or less than past years? Do you anticipate a similar?
Typically, it's about $35,000. Our highest ever was in 2020 when we got $38,000, and we go somewhere between 35 and 38 most years. That money also goes to pay for books. When we run out of foundation money, we then use the town money, and when we run out of town money, we use the annual fund drive money. We use a lot of that for programming as well. The very last page of our budget breaks down where that annual, the second to last page is the annual fund drive, where we spend that money. And the very last page is books and programs and databases. And we pay for a lot of those with the annual fund drive. We also don't come to the town for things like computers or furniture. We do all of that ourselves with what we raise in the annual fund drive. This year we pulled $5,000 out of the annual fund drive and out of a savings, a CD, because our computers were 10 years old. We were operating with computers that were 10 years old, and we couldn't make them run anymore. And being afraid of the tariffs coming in and what might happen, we went ahead and got new computers. We spent the money and upgraded those. So the annual fund drive does things like that. It got us the new database so that we can analyze what we're circulating. It books, programs, unanticipated needs, like a desperate need for new computers. So the annual fund drive is used for that. And part of our programs, books, and databases.
Okay. John?
Two questions. What percent of physical books do you have in the library?
What do you mean? You mean what circulates?
No, in the library itself. You have physical books.
Yep.
What percentage does that make up
Of the circulation?
of what you have on?
Of what we have 114,000 physical items in the book to circulate.
What percentage is that? Like 4 years ago, we asked the same question. It was like 97%. Does that sound familiar?
No, I mean, if you mean like what we're circulating,
What's
physical
available-
books
what's
versus.
available in the library?
As opposed
Versus
to ebooks?
electronic.
Yeah, as opposed to online.
I see. Yeah. Pre-COVID, it was about 8 to 10% of our circulation was electronic, 90% was physical. That's inching up closer to 20% now. It varies a lot by format. Our audiobooks are 80%, ebooks are downloadable. We've pretty much stopped buying the physical audiobooks because those are just used electronically. The books still are around 10%. Children's books are a little bit higher. We do some children's books online, but not very many. So it varies by what type of book. But it has gone from about 10 to 20% overall in terms of what we're circulating. But the ebooks are more expensive. We're better off with the physical books right now.
And the other question was, you had bought ahead of time some computers,
Just a few weeks ago.
because when we went on a tour, there was a room that had like, I don't know the number, it looked like about a dozen boxes of computers that you bought ahead of time. And the person said because of the tariffs.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, we decided to replace all of the computers that we had.
Now, are they still in boxes or are they being used?
Oh, no, they're being used.
They're all out.
Yeah, part of what we get, we have a really good tech staff. We often can set them up ourselves and whatnot, but part of what we get for from Lion is technical support services. And they come down and they work with some of our staff and they do it all in one day. We were just waiting for them to go ahead and set a day where they could come down and help us so that we could do them.
What happens to the old computers that you replaced?
They're 10 years old, so nobody wants them. In the past, we've given some to the Historical Society. Other than that, we usually just dispose of them. They're from 2016. The Windows program that's being run on them isn't supported anymore. So, but again, we took private money. We didn't ask the town for that. I thought that was a good use this year to just get that done rather than wait another year or two and see where things are at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
We just thought that was the most prudent thing to do. And we get, because we bought in bulk, we get a little bit of a discount.
Yeah.
And we got some help setting them up. So, but we did have to wait a few days for Line to come down. Again, so we could set them all up at the same time and have them all run the same way and work with our system. It was just easier to do that way.
Okay.
Okay. And we did get one more laptop too, so that as we go out to the farmers market and other places, we can have access to our collection there. We also circulate a lot of Wi-Fis. You would think that there's not a lot of people in town. It seems like an affluent community, but there's a number of people who do not have access to the internet at home. We bought 2 Wi-Fi devices to circulate, and we had to bump it up to 12 to meet demand here in East Lyme. But we also help places like Brookside and Parks and Rec in the summer. We reserve 2 of our Wi-Fis for them so that they can use that down at the beach. So we do help some of the other departments in those areas where we can. Okay.
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Lisa.
Okay. And you got your annual reports. That's everything that we do. It's rather than you having me listed here. We're not just books, we're a whole lot of things. So you'll have time to read that in your spare time. Okay, thank you, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the building maintenance budget. That's 113, Department 113. And welcome, Mr. Brokaw.
Welcome. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
I will be talking about the building maintenance department 113, and then we will go into department 317 after that. I just wanted to quickly introduce 3 people in the audience just so you guys knew. My facility supervisor, Ron Bentz, right here. Alex Close. For a lot of you guys, if you knew Bill Scheer was with us for 25 years, my deputy. Alex has now moved into that position. And Justin, these are the 3 people when we talk about building maintenance and highways that do a phenomenal job. So I just want to mention that they were here. So in building maintenance, so the budget before you shows an increase of 118,000 or 118,300 or 13.9%. But 98.3 thousand of that is of utilities. The rest of the budget is up or being proposed up $20,050 or 2.36%. I'm going to go over the specific line items in here that just jump out at me, and then any questions that you have. So the first one, custodians. If you're going to start seeing this in a lot of the budgets, any kind of FCU people, those lines are flat. This line normally would be exactly flat. What the reason there's increase in here is that we do have a assistant building supervisor that's been doing all the facility stuff around town, and that person's was brought in at 30 hours, and we're trying to bump him up to 40. We haven't really had a position like this ever, and he's doing a phenomenal job in the community center. A lot of the moves, like youth and family services, they put a department in there. Well, they built it out. These guys are doing all the painting, carpentry, and stuff like that. So it provides a tremendous value to the town to have that. But that's why that line is up. The second line, overtime. And I don't know if Lisa's still here, but she mentioned something, and no one wants to cut back hours, but just so you know that a good 80% of this line is actually to cover the weekend hours at the community center for a custodian. We went through, for the members, that we went through that all last year, so that is there. And we have a custodian person there on Saturdays for 8 hours and Sundays for 4 when the library's open, to be able to have someone still there, clean the bathrooms, open the building, just be there. So just to be aware that line isn't specifically going up. If anything, we asked for a slight increase to cover the cost, but that got cut back. But that's what that is all about. So contracted operations service contracts are proposed 3,700. HVAC contracts, elevator contracts, they don't really care about our budget. They just will say, this is the contract, this is what you need to do. We do always try to check on the best price possible, but that proactive thing to have preventive maintenance contracts in all these units is what prevents us from having all the failures. So that's pretty essential. We have a very small increase in building maintenance. We actually requested a little more. Building maintenance is just all the little things of the paint, the carpentry, the counter, everything that goes into the operation of building maintenance to maintain the town hall, the community center, the police station, all these buildings. So that budget gets a lot of stress on it, but we manage it as best as possible. So it's a pretty important number to keep all these buildings up. The operating expenses, custodial supplies, there's no changes. And then the last is electricity, and you're going to see this. This is what we talked about the other night when I was in front of the Board of Finance, and Mr. Gervais was saying we're monitoring the public demand charge. A lot of people are getting their own bills because that's hitting the town 10 times as hard. We actually just had an Eversource rep today with us, and it's not clear what's happening with that charge. That charge might sunset, as Kevin said, but there might be a new charge coming in. We're about to do a deep dive to find out exactly what's going on with all these bills and all this stuff. So I'd like to, if we do find any ways of savings, it's just that we're responding to what these Eversource bills are, and we have to pay them. So that is the best guess, that 94,000. That's what we're tracking this year. So if that charge goes away, or if there's something on there that we can do, I'll come before Dan and Kevin to let you guys know. But right now, it's best to put the number that we're having to pay as opposed to, and it's not all, just so remember, it's not just that public demand. This is the year we had a phenomenal rate for 4 years of 6.7 on supply, and now we're paying 10.2. It's about the same rate as the Board of Ed is paying, but we had such a favorable rate, and that new rate started on January 1st, so we're still trying to absorb what impact that has on our budget. The last two items, heating, oil, and propane. We do I think a really good job of trying to bid out all the fuels, and best we can of trying to make the buildings as cost effective as possible. But it's a good example of, like, this year, as in everyone else's house, it's been a much colder winter, and everyone's paying more in heat. Well, that's the town too. So we try to do a best guess of what the amount of fuel we need every year, plus how much it costs us, and some of the costs are going up. So that's why the heating and oil, propane. And the last is the water and sewer, and I'm on the Mr. Cunningham is the chairman of the Water and Sewer Commission. The rates are going up on the water and sewer side. The town has, like, town hall, field service building, all these other buildings have water and sewer, and they get bills from water and sewer, so they have to pay those bills, and those bills are going up. So that's basically a gist of the Department 113 building. I wish I could tell you it was zero, but almost 90% of all the things are utility costs that I don't control.
Quick question, with the work that will be done to Town Hall to
For ADA,
make us ADA compliant, are
Yep.
there any service contracts that you think might kick in? Like, are we doing an elevator?
Well, we're not doing an elevator. We're actually doing a lift. There is a difference. The lift is not. It's not a full enclosed elevator. This is going to be, actually, it's going to be an open shaft that's going to have rails. But you see it some places used where the lift goes up, the lift goes down. So the first year, we should probably be under. A lot of times when you put this in the first year, there's no contract on that, but we'll work on that. So I don't think anything that's going on with that project will have an impact on this coming budget.
Okay.
But thank you for asking that.
Hi, thanks. Question about the electric bills. Has Eversource provided an explanation for why? And I think you mentioned that you anticipate they could get sunsetted and go back down. When will you know?
Well, The person that I was meeting with is obviously, is a town representative, he's at this level here. I mean, this is a total Pura thing, with the state, and this is a very high level of what the, Eversource can set for rates. I mean, it's not just us, I mean, it's been on social media, everyone's being hit by these public demand fees. Well, if it's on your own bill for 15%, think of what the town's bill for 15%, that's the difference here. So I can't answer that because the gentleman was with us today, doesn't know. I'm sure Eversource is asking for a nice amount, and Pure, which is the Public Utility Regulatory Agency, is the one that says yay or nay. So
just the public service charge is being created by the state, but they're telling Eversource they have to collect the money. So that part of that bill is where during COVID, if people couldn't pay their bills, nobody's electricity got shut down. So that obviously Eversource didn't get paid, and so for that entire 4 years or so, all of that money that didn't get collected is now being charged to everybody else. There's also a charge in there to build charging stations for electric vehicles. So that, again, is something that the state has implemented, but they have called on Eversource to collect the money through our bills. So a lot of people saw their bills explode. I know mine went 1 month from 400 to 800. So there's been a public outcry, and so the state legislature is trying to see what they can do and whether or not they stop putting those public service charges on our electric bills is being taken up by the legislature. So until that is decided, we don't know.
Thanks.
So if I may add to it, so my understanding and meeting with the representative today is that, at least the belief is that April 1st, the charge as we know it right now, the public benefit charge, will presumably disappear off of the bill. However, it's in the hands of Pura right now to review some other species of that. There'll be maybe some other charge. Hopefully it's a lower percentage than what it is now, but they aren't sure. No one can really give us a clear answer. So we're going to have to be careful. Maybe we can make some adjustments on that line, but we need to use caution, and as we get better information, we can make a more informed decision.
But basically what's been going on is our taxpayers are getting charged not only in
That's
their own
right.
bill, but through
It's a
what would be
tax,
their
is
town
what it
tax.
is.
Yeah,
and it's
No
not
other way to
just,
look
so
at
I
it's a
mean,
double charge to
what I
people.
represent is the building maintenance.
Yeah.
It's hitting the water budget, it's hitting the sewer budget, it's hitting the Board of Ed budget. The town of all the electricity on all those matters is well over $1 million. And that's a big hit to the town. It's a big
No-
number.
Another unfunded mandate in the sense that we're being forced to pay it, and so we'll see where it goes. We're watching it closely.
Anyone else on building maintenance? If not, we can go on to engineering. So for Public Works, Highway, Sanitation, and Engineering, so that's 317. I believe.
317, yep. So this is the first year. Typically, we do Department 317, which is Highway and Sanitation, and then we have Engineering, Department 105. We blended those two together. We merged them. So this budget that you see in their sheet is kind of unlike any other budget, is that most budgets have in the far left column actual expense, and then it has budgeted amount, and then it has amended amount. We don't have that because we have the Highway and Engineering budget listed, and then the total budget, so it's completely transparent. No money's disappearing as far as, so you can compare apples and apples from last year to this year. So starting with that. Another thing I did that I'd like to give to you guys. I put hole punches in it so you guys can put them in your books. Okay, thanks.
Awful. Thank you.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you.
For those that might be watching or those that are listening in, what I have in front of you is, I will get into the actual budget as presented that's in your book, but I did think that I took all those numbers and pulled them together of like things, like personnel, road work. And there's a lot of things in the highway budget that you might see in a list, but it pops out at you in this way as far as, say, tree work or all the things that we do, storm materials, garbage costs. A big jump out at this, excuse me, just a few points I want to hit on this, and then I will, excuse me, get into the specific line items, is that we had proposed a budget increase, and we've already been cut $133,000, or 80% of our increase, our proposed increase. So right now, with all these things that we do, we're at a 1.138 increase in our operating expense, but in the building department here, they produce revenue, but Public Works does produce revenue. We produce revenue in the commercial trash that we charge the commercial vendors, and also at the transfer station. So in this sheet, the top is all your operating expenses. Right now, we're sitting on a $4.4 million budget at $49,841 over. We're proposing $106,000 more in revenue, which is a 12.6% increase in revenue. So we're actually sitting at a negative budget. I understand you have operating, but you also have revenue. So I'm happy to report 20% of the town budget is down 1.6. So that's a good thing. And then backing up this, there is a little pie chart. It's kind of a little telling because numbers pop out when you look at a chart of really where the money's going on highway. It seems like, I've heard, oh, you're 20% of the highway, the town budget. But if you really break it down of how much you're spending on streetlights and road work and personnel, now personnel sounds like a big nugget, but they do plow our roads, they sweep our roads, they fix all the drainage. This is the garbage guys, this is everyone, this is the people transfer station. So they're doing a lot of things at a high value, and we're actually asking to propose to do it at a 1.6% negative to the budget next year. So that's my little take, and I put hole punches on this so that you guys had a copy of this. If I get into specific things, because there are a decent amount of line items, I'll try to go through them as quick as I can. This year, because we melded the public works and the engineering budget, it looks like the numbers are higher, but if you add the highway budget, which is the public works director, myself, the deputy public works director, the highway superintendent, we're also the engineering staff that's downstairs. Now that engineering staff, they're the ones that put together, like say for instance, this town hall ADA compliance. We put that out to bid. This is a Department of Justice review. Department of Justice, they almost had no comments on the project. I bet it would have been $60,000, $80,000 to put that out, to put that package out. Our staff did it. They do that stuff all the time. They have a lot of stuff going on. If anything, right now, we have about $19 million worth of federal projects. We have the East Pat project where we're completely reconstructing that next year. We have the Colony Road Bridge. We have the Fairhaven. We're rebuilding the Plant Dam, the dam up by the Rustic Cafe. We have about $19 million for the project. Actually, I've never had this much project. I've been here 11 years, and Bill left. Alex is stepping in, and right now we only have half a person to replace that. So we're doing the best we can, but it just shows on those numbers that the people that are doing this are doing a phenomenal job. If I go down the list of things, because overtime, as you recall from last year, overtime just got lumped, so our regular overtime and storm overtime got all lumped into the same amount. The salaries of the people are going up, but the amount's the same, so it's a little scary, because this is a perfect example. We were out there a lot more this year than past years, so that's just the overtime line. If you go down the list, stormwater and the contracted operations, stormwater management, that was a line that came from engineering. So that line is, the town has a municipal separate storm sewer permit with the DEP, and we're required to do testing of all the outfalls. And there's a lot of testing, and all those requirements, all those test costs go up just like everything else. So we really have to raise that price because we have to be in compliance with this permit with the DEP. Tree work, we're not adding anything to, but as you just drive around town with all the dead trees and just to let you know on the tree work, it's not just cutting down trees. Like if you drive around the north end of town, Walnut Hill Road, Scott Road, all those things, we try to lift the tree canopy up, because if you don't do anything about that, the trees just grow into, and the trees are now, the limbs are now 10 feet from the road, 11 feet, everything's hitting it. We get calls, people are hitting their boats, they're hitting all kinds of stuff. So that tree canopy stuff is a lot of work, and we have 118 miles of road, so that line sounds like a lot, 50,000, but it's nowhere near enough to keep up, but we're doing the best we can. Waste, contracted operations, waste and recycling, that also got dumped into one large line, and that line itself is up 8.64%, but the budget's down. So what's happening, and for the people that are familiar with me talking of the life, liberty, and the pursuit of garbage pickup, the cost of trash in the state of Connecticut is going up big time. Most towns are paying about $120 a ton to dispose of it, and most towns are paying about $110 for recycling. We're a member of SCARA. I'm the president of SCARA. They're doing a lot of great things in SCARA. SCARA charges the town $67, where the rest of the going rate's $120, and they pay for all our recycling. That would be a $200,000 cost to the town of East Lyme. SCARA pays it all. So SCARA is a great organization, and we're trying, as the president and the board, trying to keep that money as long as we can. The problem is now they're trying to raise the rate of the tip fee, because that very good contract that we have ends in 2030. It sounds like a very long time away, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. So we're raising that up. I'm just trying to explain why SCARA is not being mean and trying to stick it to the towns. They're trying to raise the cost so it gets up to close to the market rate once we come off that contract, and now we're paying $120 a ton. So, but that impacts East Lyme, that impacts Waterford. So that line there is costing the town a lot of money, but it's a huge value to the town. I mean, people, I say my thing, but not everyone has kids that go to school. Not everyone has a lot of stuff. Everyone's producing trash pretty much, and everyone's driving on the road. So it's a huge service that I think our people do a great job, and we have looked in, and they do it much more competitively than if we subcontracted it out.
Joe, to that point, I'd love to see not just if we were to contract it out, not just switching over who's sending out the bill, but if we did a full RFP that included, selling the trucks, having, getting rid of all of that expense, if we, as part of it said they had to hire our people, and like at a previous town, we saw huge savings. So if this is an 8.64% increase in our cost, I'm looking,
Yeah.
I think it might be worth it to see if we could put that out and see if there is a way for us to save money if we include the full economic picture. If we're not paying, the salaries with the pension and insurance, if that was taken into consideration in the whole thing. We see other towns doing this and saving money, so
I just so I'm perfectly clear, because I've done some analysis. Are you looking for it to take the cost of trash out of people's taxes, and they have to pay for it on their own?
No.
Okay, so what I just need to know from analysis.
Yeah, no, it would be, we would pay the trash service, but as part of that contract with them, we would, like I said, have them hire the people that we have, buy our trucks from us, and so they would be providing the service and billing the town.
I've done that analysis. Yeah. It costs more.
I'd love to see that, because like I said, in a previous town, we saved a whole lot of money, so
so our cost for trash is our drivers, is the trucks, is the fuel, is the maintenance on the trucks. That's pretty much what the cost of that operation is. So there are other towns, there's 12 towns in Scarra, 3 towns, us, Newland, and Waterford, all pick up their trash. Everyone else does what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have subscription services where it's not covered in it's not covered in taxes. Others do. I think what you're talking about is that a commercial vendor does it,
Mm-hmm.
charges us, and picks up the trash.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we looked into. That would cost $200,000 more than what we're doing now.
I guess part of one of the biggest numbers that keeps going up is our pension costs.
Yep.
So, I'm just looking at ways that we can try to reduce that as well as this. And I just am wondering whether that analysis took into consideration all of those.
It took into consideration health benefit and everything like that. As far as pension, I do not have that number in there, and Mr. Gervais could give it. The pension of the drivers that we're driving is not comparably very good to other places, so it's not going to be this staggering number. But if we're already $200,000 more to have an outside vendor, if you're asking the ways to save money, is to have people pay for the trash, have subscription, or do pay as you throw like Stonington. People buy the bags for $2 and throw the yellow bag in our can. Stonington actually used to, when I say used to, just till recently, everyone had to do pay as you throw and throw the bags to the street. The trash trucks, which were kind of old-time trash trucks you threw in the back, the drivers would get out of the trucks and walk to the side of the street and put the yellow bag into the thing so they could tell that it's a town bag. Excuse me. Now, all the trucks nowadays are automated. So you have a 96-gallon cart like everyone has, and they have the lid on it, and they have the colored bag in the lid. So when that split second, oh, I have something in my throat. And that split second when they dump it, it's kind of hard to tell.
Excuse me, Dan, do you have any water
Yeah,
in
let
your
me get you
office?
water.
I know, I just have something in my throat. So we'll look into it all as far as what you want, but I've done a lot of looking into the cost of selling off the trucks. The costs I can certainly share with the board, but I will say that our people are doing it more cost effective than what towns, and I was just sitting at Scare the other day, and the cost of the other towns. The problem with the cost of these vendors is there's really only one that will do it, CWPM. There's no other person. The other vendor that does it is Casella. They're out of Willimantic, so it's not cost effective for them to come to East Lyme. So you're going to have one vendor bidding on the town. They can really charge you whatever they really want. So we know what the cost of that is. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I don't want to water, I want a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, I should just say, and they do a wonderful
Oh,
job. This is not anything.
I totally get it. I just want you to know that we understood that, and I've tried to anticipate, and we looked into all those costs. We looked into the costs of how much it is to maintain the trucks, how much are guys, how much it is for the insurance, and believe it or not, we actually brought in a vendor. But we do it cheaper than what someone else did. I think we do it really well because we get a lot of calls, and I think the people are pretty happy with our service. And I don't think you're going to get the same thing with a commercial vendor that doesn't work for the town because they're just going to do however they want to do it, as opposed to the people that are guys that do it. So it's probably the only way that you're going to save money is to put the cost of it. And on those towns like Groton is a subscription, Montville's a subscription. It's about $600 a year for someone to have trash pickup. It's about $50 a month, give or take, to have. So if that comes out of the budget, you can save money because now we're not paying it for the tip fee. However, each resident is going to now pay $600. So pay taxes of this and $600 for that more. There's no way around it. That's what they're going to charge. And each year, those companies are going to charge. You're not going to be able to sit down in front of them and say, can you give us a better price? They're just going to tell you what it's going to be. Next year, it's up 15%. The next year, it's up 20%. We control that right now because we are as efficient as possible with our own people.
I would love to see the analysis.
I will get that for you. I already have it, so
Okay.
I can get it to you. I can have Kevin email it to you.
Thank you.
And you can share it with the board. It goes over all the things you're looking for.
Scott?
Yeah, hi, a question about tree maintenance. The 50,000 you said, forgive me, this is a naive question. Does any of the tree maintenance go to sort of keep tree limbs off of electric lines? Or is
No.
that done by the
Ironically, we
utilities?
probably have about 50,000 more in work in town every year. I just called the Eversource tree management person today, and to take down 2 trees on Mossway Road that were dead. We have a good relationship with Eversource. They pay for anything near a tree, electrical wire. They take it down, which saves the town thousands of dollars. So this is just dead trees, town right away. I mean, as everyone aware, every road in town is 118 miles of road. You have a town right away, and if those roads are like, say, 25, 30 feet on it, just imagine 10 feet on either side of every road. We own every tree in town. So if that tree's dead, we got to take it down, or it's a hazard. And that doesn't go for all the, as I said, all those roads. We've been trying to do a better effort with as I said, Walnut Hill, Whistletown, all these other roads, because it's just Giant Snack Road. All these roads, all the trees are just growing into the envelope, and you have to cut that back, or else you're going to have a big issue. So that 50,000 goes very quickly.
Actually, I was thinking, is it enough?
No.
To actually
It-
make
it-
it be a safe situation?
Safe situation, yes, because the canopy is not really as much a safety as it's a nuisance thing. If the canopy's growing down, it's really not really falling on anyone, but it's just way too low. Like any kind of truck, any kind of box truck, any kind of delivery truck, anything big, the fire trucks, the garbage trucks are going to start whacking the top of these trees, which at some point is going to knock out the limbs. But I mean, and the highway department does a great job of doing as much trimming as we can, but most of the trimming we do is from the sides, push back the sides, but we don't have something that can cut the canopy, because it's a safety issue. I mean, you need a bucket truck to be up to get the right height.
Okay,
Richard?
Yes.
Any? Oh,
Thank you, Joe.
yep.
In terms of the payroll, we see 0, but does that mean that there's increases that'll come out of contingency going
That's correct.
forward?
Yeah, there's a portion in contingency line that's being held for UPSU that would cover that, and if you apply a reasonable amount to the highway people, it would be pretty much a flat budget then.
Okay.
So you're very correct, and actually, Richard, any of the departments that walk in front of you, they should all be showing 0, or else something is going on, because there's no UPSU, which is pretty much all the union personnel,
Right.
increases in here, because that's being carried in a wage contingency, because this is a negotiation year.
Oh, okay. And then what I've always liked that you've done in the past, but I didn't see it in this year's handouts or in the book, you would always kind of have road projects that you color coded as to which ones were going to be priority, which ones,
The specific roads?
yeah.
We
yeah.
can share that. I don't think we ever specifically put it in the book. I think I shared it with when it got to the CIP level. When we started talking CIP and we talked to road bonds, I tried to give as best, and
Oh, okay.
we certainly could share. We have our plan for this coming year. We have the plan for the next few years. It's just that is getting dialed back a little bit, because the amounts, as the budget gets shrinking, we have to use more of our budget on operations and less it on the roads, so I don't know exactly, but
Right.
just in general, we're going to be doing a lot of the work up on the Route 161 up by the golf course, those neighborhoods, in that area. We're working on the Spring Rock Road this summer, Spring Rock Road area. We had to address Dravic Road, which is falling apart. And then, once we get through those roads, we're looking to finally get into the beach areas. The beach areas and when I say the beach areas, Crescent Beach, and then Giant Snake Heights, Giant Snake Beach, Black Point. All those roads are probably 40 to 50 years old at the least, and they really haven't had much of anything, and they're starting to crack. And from a pavement preservation standpoint, this is the time in the next 3-4 years to put a pavement treatment on it that costs a fifth of what it'd be to pave. You can't just go down those roads. You can't go down those neighborhoods and put an 1.5-inch thick of pavement on there, you'll just create all kinds of drainage issues and all kinds of stuff, and it will all reflect cracks. So we've been trying, that's what these guys are doing, is we're trying to figure out how, with the money that we get, we can best use in the road program. It is starting. We've used the same amount of money, $850,000 for the last 11 years, and haven't increased the money. Last year it was $750,000. So instead of the money going up with inflation, it's staying the same or going down. So you can only imagine we're getting less roads done. But we're doing the best we can, and take a lot of pride. You drive around town, the roads are in pretty good shape, but we shouldn't be lulled into they're in pretty good shape. Okay, then we can move on to the next thing, because they could easily fall out of shape. Right now is the perfect time to be putting pavement treatments on those areas, but there's a ton of square yardage in Black Point and Giants Neck Heights and Giants Neck Beach and all these other areas. So that's our plan in in general, but we have an actual all the roads laid out. It's kind of a moving target based on how much money we have, and this is the perfect time of year after the winter when you have heaving and stuff like that to just reassess the list. Did anything get worse? Do we have to address anything specifically? And so it's like a whole sport to try to figure out an art to try to figure out how to do it. But I can certainly provide the list if the commission wants it.
If you've done it, during the CIP session in the past, then I'm just jumping the gun.
Yeah, it was never in the booklet. It was always in the CIP because it backs up the $850 that we've been spending. This is our pavement management plan. Right. I didn't do it this year. I certainly can give that list. It just if the Board of Finance wants it.
That's all right. And then for road maintenance and repair, you're talking the $850 figure. That's what we get from the state and grants.
No. So the what we get from the state and grants is Town Aid Road is the last item in this program. It's $314,000. $316,487. The $850, which is what we've annually been getting, which was $750 this year, is what this board and the town supports as far as bonding. So if you add, in all these years, I've added up to Town Aid Road, which is about so 315 for that and 850. So but basically we've been putting into roads. That's why the roads are in pretty good shape. That's the stable number to keep up with roads. But with 118 miles of road, if you worked on a road 10 years ago, you have to start going back at some point, or else you're going to lose it again. So.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've been speaking about in the CIP committee is moving that 850 or whatever the number is into operating, and as opposed to bonding for it, because again, a long range plan is to borrow less money to save on interest expense over time. So as we try to build our cash capital.
Sounds good. Just one last question, and thanks for everything you're providing. For the traffic calming measures.
I was just about to tell you about that. But you want me to explain that?
Well, yeah, I know that in the past that was about the cost of one of those
digital
signs
speed,
that reads the speed and stuff. But are we doing anything else for traffic calming?
Yeah, we're starting a different approach. One of the things that we're looking at is putting a lot of white edge lines and stuff like that. So, for instance, right at Methodist Street, you go to Methodist Street where they have the farmers market. A lot of people come up, and the area on the right, if you want to call it on the east side, where everyone parks, people think that's a road. It's not. It's a parking lot. So Alex has been working on, we're actually going to be doing a very good striping where the edge lines to kind of squeeze the traffic a little tighter so people feel a little more comfortable walk around the edge, delineate the parking lot, delineate that whole area. So that's a perfect example of, that might be $1,500, $1,800, but you know what? That's in a small area. People are going to notice it. If you've seen on the downtown Main Street, all the things where we X'd out all the no parking around the, it drove me nuts on seeing on social media, everyone's going to get hit in the crosswalks. There's nothing we can do. Yes, there is. Eliminate parking. So we actually striped the parking. And just so in all those stripes that we did, that's all by state statute, no parking. It's state statute, you're not supposed to park 25 feet from a crosswalk. You're not supposed to park 25 feet from an intersection, and I believe it's 8 to 10 feet, tell me if I'm wrong, from a fire hydrant. That's all we did down there, and the safety is so much better because now people can see when you go up. Our department did that. No one asked us to do that. It was the right thing to do. That's how we use the money. We try to find things that we think will make it more safe, calm the traffic. So that's our attack now. We did that on Pine Grove Road. It's a real wide road, real straight. People think they can go a thing. We put some edge lines in there. So instead of being a 30-foot road, now it looks like it's 24 and you got 3 feet on either side. I got a lot of compliments from people. Oh, that really slowed down people because now I can walk on the edge of the road. People aren't going through there. So you make the drivers a little uncomfortable because they have to be a little tighter and stay in the edge lines. So that's really what we're going to be looking at. It's more roads in town where we can do the white edge lines and do kind of those kind of striping because speed bumps don't work. Most towns pull them out. We have 8 digital speed signs? 6? We have 6 digital speed signs around town. I think we probably have enough now because we can move them around, but that's the tactic. Because in traffic calming, it's probably the #1 complaint on social media. Everyone's complaining about speed, and the police, a lot of them don't have time to do radar, so we're trying to find areas. We put the white striping on Grand Street to narrow it down. So that's probably the best way. We can do some in the beach area. It just slows people down. It's proven.
Sounds great. I'm glad you're taking that approach. And then one last question is, I can understand the incorporation of engineering with Bill's retirement with Public Works. Do you expect to see any future efficiencies gained by bringing the department into Public Works?
I do. They're the same people. It's just if we have a need on the engineering, it was a specific budget. If we have a need on highway, we have a specific budget. Because they're together, if there's a need, and the first selectman and the director of finance are okay with it, we make a transfer. And if you make a transfer within a department, you guys still see it, but you can do it. If you do it outside a department, there's an issue. So I think there's efficiencies because we can see if the engineering needs a little more help or the highway, so long as the first selectman and director of finance and you guys are on board with it, it's a lot easier to do that than to start moving money from Department 105, Department 317. And unfortunately, it sounds like, we're doing all this, but that's life. I mean, sometimes you have to move money around, and so it is more efficient to have it all together.
Okay.
And the admin person that was down here, so the public would usually call about trash or other things. Our field service building, if you're not aware, is 6 miles away. So now our person, that Marilyn, who was the one downstairs, is over there sitting right with the highway people. So people get a much better answer of what's going on because that woman, Danielle, who's doing a great job, is right there, can talk to the foreman. So that's efficient right now. And I've also seen that on social media. People, I got a call back from someone. Like, we're doing a much better job of tracking complaints that come in and getting in touch with people, and that's what we should be doing.
Thank you.
So we're being as efficient as possible.
Okay. Thanks.
I just have one more question. I was a little bit surprised in the CIP meeting to learn that you guys actually plow all the sidewalks in front of residents as well as like Main Street and that type of thing. Do you know like what percentage of the sidewalks are like town-owned property versus private-owned property?
5%? The question is, how much percentage? Almost, when you say the downtown, they are still in front of, like, George Mitchell owns in front of the thing.
Yeah.
So it's, so the better almost way, and I'll try to answer you as best as possible, is that 90% of towns, maybe 95% of towns in the state of Connecticut, put it upon the residents in front of the sidewalks.
Yeah,
We don't.
I'd never
We're
heard
in the
of
5
this.
to 7%.
Yeah.
And so that puts a huge burden on the, we get, our guys that will be plowing for, 25, 30 hours in a storm, and all of a sudden, someone has to get out there on our equipment and do the 18 miles of sidewalk. And like after one of the storms that happened, we didn't have any like blizzards this year, but we had enough, 2 inches, 3 inches. They still got to get out there. The guys got done at like 2 in the morning, and then they came back the next day. Well, we started getting complaints, why aren't the sidewalks done? Well, at some point you got to let the guys go home and sleep for 3 hours. So it is a big challenge. I don't know that's the answer, except that 97% of the other towns, but it'd be a very unpopular ordinance to pass in this town to put that burden on the residents. And we have the equipment to do it, but we need the support of just the manpower. And it's not just the manpower, it's the liability. It's like if anyone slips, because all the ice on the sidewalks and stuff like that, we now have a salter that can put some salt on the sidewalks, but that's a new piece of equipment that we would take out of storm material. So
So do you have a way of saying, you know, this is what it costs us to do the sidewalks? I mean, is that broken out in your?
We could, I mean, what it basically is the overtime associated with, so, I mean, I could put some numbers.
Yeah. I just, you know, it definitely sounds unpopular, but again, I'm just looking at a budget that has a huge increase, and when 97% of the towns, you know, put the onus on the owners of the property to plow or shovel their own sidewalks, it just seems like between the manpower, the overtime, the equipment needed, all of that, you know, is that something that we need to look at?
Just a bit of advice, take it for what it is, but to get the best way to save money in the public works is to go, it's a pay-as-you-throw program. For anyone who remembers, Wayne Frazier won by getting rid of the we had pay-as-you-throw, the bags. We had that 25, 30 years ago. But that produces the revenue that helps. That's the biggest. Taking out, clearing the sidewalks could be $10,000, $15,000. It's not, you know, pay-as-you-throw is, you know, $300,000, $4,000, $100,000 savings. Everything else is nickels and dimes compared to a 10.9% townwide increase, and our budget already is under. So that just the best advice is to pay-as-you-throw. It's just that's got to be something where the boards, the public works director, the public works department, and the residents have to understand. And it's doable, and it would save a decent amount of money, but it would come at a cost.
To just launch off of the sidewalk, it's just Niantic that the sidewalks are cleared?
No.
Flanders?
Flanders
are cleared?
The whole town.
Oh, okay.
The guy, we have two Kubotas that have snow blowers and a plow on it, and they go out after the storm and they go down, and you know, they go in two different routes.
18
One
miles.
goes north, one goes south, and we're actually adding all the new sidewalk too up at exit 74, which is going to be great, but it's more sidewalk for us. We have to plow all that, and then we get to Flanders Four Corners. We have to go out all that sidewalk. So it's 18 miles of sidewalk.
Okay.
It's not a downtown. We have to get by Society Road, because then you're near a school, near Flanders School. I mean, you definitely, we have a hit list of the high priority. The high priority is downtown near schools, first priority. Second is branching off of that, and third is all the extra sidewalk. You could have sidewalk in neighborhoods that the subdivision requirements require us to have sidewalks, but no one's walking on the sidewalk in a neighborhood that's got 8 inches of snow when you got a 30-foot wide road. But we get to it, but that's not going to be the highest priority. The priority is the downtown, because of the merchants, because of all the people. It's the high traffic areas.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Feel like you've touched on everything you wanted to?
So you're looking for that. You're looking for that analysis on the trash. I can get it to you.
Yeah.
And do you want the list of roads, Rich, or
Nah,
you good?
we don't.
Okay. If you need anything else, let me know.
I need more money.
Pay as you throw.
Justin, can you come up to the? And state your name too.
Yep, Justin Porter, Superintendent. So I'm the guy that runs all the operations for everything that you see that happens. So Joe and I have spent a lot of time, just looking at everything and figuring out ways to cut as much as feasibly possible to continue to give a level of service to the residents. I'm a taxpayer as well. In regards to the trash, I will note that it's very important that if this does look like you ever want to go that way, the cost to ever bring that back is in somewhere between $8 and $10 million. This is not something to be taken lightly. Once this goes that way, it almost would never come back as something that can be run by the town. So I just wanted to put that on record to make sure everybody understands the repercussions if it does go that route. We have met with the owners of CWPM. We have had those discussions to try to figure out if that's something that is viable. There has not been a number that's come across that has saved the town any money whatsoever. Joe will get you all of that stuff, but I'm here just to let you all know that we've done that homework. And, you know, I would advise you not to go that route, but again, it's your choice, of course.
Well,
So-
it's not
Well,
really our choice.
it's a group. I just want everybody to be fully informed of all of the legwork that's been done. Somebody that runs operations, I'm also on the board at SCARA, so I'm involved with that stuff as well. We live and breathe garbage, and it's, you know, for better or worse. I do understand that it is one of the larger implications for cost, and we don't take it lightly. So Joe, you know, does everything in his power, just from procuring the trucks to the maintaining the trucks. We do everything at 50 cents to the dollar compared to anybody else. So I will leave it at that.
Oh, thank you. I mean, this is why these
Yeah.
meetings are important,
Yep.
because, you know, people always have ideas, and people in the public say, why do we do this? And
Mhm.
so it's helpful for us to have the information.
Sure, absolutely.
One last question, I don't know which, I noticed the streetlight budget went up as well. Are we doing anything to convert the type of lights, or do we have the most
I
cost-effective
think it's
lights?
because of my street, that's why it went up so much.
Yeah, so we did convert it, and from the history of the people who've been on the board, we bought our lights 8 years ago, and that was at a cost of $450,000 from Eversource. We converted them all to LED at the most energy efficient lights, because the street lights aren't metered. You get, it doesn't, I mean, I hate to say it, but if a light's on all day, we still get charged the same amount. It's the wrong thing, so we try to make sure to turn it, but it's an unmetered cost, so it's like we get charged that no matter what. The reason the streetlight costs is just like the public demand is that streetlight line used to be $230,000 in the town budget. Now it's 76. That's from the efficiency of looking at it. How we do that is that we get like the rate on streetlight LED lights that the town owns is a 10th or a 15th of the cost of other towns paying that Eversource manages them. The problem is we now have to manage them. So every time, so if your light goes out on your street, you call there. I had to get an electrician go out there, and that's licensed electrician that can work on it. In Paul's neighborhood, it's underground utilities, but it's been, and I apologize because it's like trying to, the lights go out. Well, it's underground. There's no utility poles, so then they have to dig up 60 feet to put in from the transformer to get a new line, and then it's kind of goes back and forth. Your electrician does that. Then you got to get Eversource to tie it, and there's a lot to it. All that is managed by us, but it's saving the town a ton of money. So again, just like Justin said, we've done everything we can to make that street lights. If anything, if you look at the street light budget of any other town, ours is probably the lowest because of what we've done to make it efficient. There's nowhere else, but that's why it's up. It's the cost of electricity. It's the public demand cost is also charged to electricity, to the lights. Okay.
Thank you. John?
Just follow up on that. The 79,000, is that just on the town side
What do you mean by that?
as opposed to like the football field, the school system?
Oh, yeah. That's for street lights. If there's something at the high school field, the lights at Brybrook Park, that's paid by Parks and Rec. The lights at the football field are paid for Board of Ed. This is,
Are they all LED also?
I don't know what they have. I think some of them they don't. The school, I think, is LED. The ones at Brybrook Park, I don't think are. That would be something you need to take up with Mr. Locken. But we have 1,500 streetlights in town, all the way through town. And we get requests sometimes. We just got one the other day where someone wanted a light on 156 near the police station. I mean, there's a cost to putting up a new light. It might be $5,000 to put in a light.
I
So
remember when you did that back in the day, it was like you said, 7 or 8 years ago.
it was 8 years, yeah.
8 years ago.
Because the reason I know it vividly is
Yeah,
that
I
there was a
remember how much
7-year
it cost.
loan. There was a 7-year loan, and in the year 8th, we made our money back because we paid the same amount for 7 years that you wouldn't have paid for doing nothing. But now we're in the bonus. The bonus is it dropped from 230 to 70. But now that 70, I don't know.
79.
73 is now 79, but it's not 230, and that 230 would have been 260 by this point. So we're saving a ton, but we have to manage them, and that's all the lights that are on the street. And that's on state roads too. It doesn't matter. It's just because it's state road doesn't mean the state pays for it. The town pays for all. So there's like 3 or 4 lights out on 161 right now.
and I'm well aware of it. I have to buy new, there's a 4-week lead time on the fixtures, so I had to order the fixtures, get them in, get an electrician out there. I'm going to have to get 2 police officers on either side, but a sign pattern, it's a lot to manage these lights, but we do it for a very cost-effective price. So,
If I may, I was on the Board of Selectmen back then when we made that decision, and I was really highly in favor of it, and we did it. After that 7 years, we paid for the lights over that 7 years, and now we enjoy that savings every year. It's been diminished a little bit by this extra charge that we've been talking about for electricity, but it's really been an advantage, and we did it, and so now we have all LED lighting for our streetlights, so a big improvement. So we had that foresight 2 years ago.
Good, great. Anyone all set?
Alex,
Yep. Alex?
So Alex Close, Deputy Public Works Director. The one thing I want to add for the budget overall, and this is for people like listening online too, when we talk about roads, we like to talk about like the treatment of the road and the pavement. The way that East Lyme breaks out their expenditure for road maintenance, we don't have a separate line for the other infrastructure, like our drainage infrastructure. We do have a sidewalk CNRE. It's pretty light. It kind of does the maintenance stuff. But what happens is our infrastructure is aging quite a bit. You'll see that we have a lot of sinkholes that are getting worse and worse over time because of corrugated metal piping that's rotting out. We're seeing a huge backlog on our sidewalk side of things. We have to go out and take another inventory this year to deal with settling and heaving and cracking in areas that we have issues with sidewalks. We're working with Eversource and Frontier to try to coordinate poles and things like that. The drainage especially, all of that comes out of the same pot of money that we're doing our operating and our road stuff. It's not broken out as a separate line on the budget. It'd be really hard to quantify that because some years we have more problems with drainage than others, and that's just the way that we do it. So when you see that dollar amount and you just look at the miles of roads, there's a lot of other components to that are underneath the pavement that people aren't thinking about. That's costing a lot of money, and some years it's just more than others. So what happens is if we have a lot of emergency stuff come up, we get a really bad storm, we get blowouts in the road, we get washouts in the roads, like Walnut Hill, we lost half a bridge one year from Ida. That just comes out, and then we do less roads. So that's where Joe is saying it's a moving target. We just try to hit what we think makes sense to do preventative, especially with the surface treatments. That's almost all preventative, but this emergency stuff comes up throughout the year. That's either a hazard or we've noticed maybe it's a drainage issue that's been persisting and getting worse with residents. They have a lot of flooding in front of their house or something like that, and we try to tackle those projects, and it all kind of comes out of that working budget. So you don't want people to think, oh, that's just for paving the roads. There's a lot of other stuff that we do with that money to make the entire network function, and the drainage is a major, major piece of that. And a big drainage project can easily cost upwards of $100,000 plus if it's a serious drainage project. A small drainage project is $20,000. Just to do a little bit of work, put a couple new catch basins in or something like that. So that all comes in that road budget, if you will, too. So just something to consider that more than just the pavement. And you all may know that, but just for everyone's awareness. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, so I think that wraps up engineering and public works. And we can go on to the Commission on Aging, which would be Department 418. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Kristen Karamanica, the director of the Senior Center. I was planning on doing a PowerPoint, but I have some handouts to give you.
Yeah, again, we apologize. We had a last
That's
minute
okay.
absence. You can just hand them all to us and we'll pass them around.
Okay, so the Commission on Aging, the Senior Center budget remains largely unchanged, as we made every effort just to adhere to the budget. And I just want to state one little fact, that the older population is expected to grow significantly in the future. In 2011, baby boomers turned 65. By 2030, all baby boomers will be older than 65. After 2050, all baby boomers will be older than 85. So I just want to highlight our transportation budget. That's the biggest change. But transportation is more than just a ride. It's a critical connection for folks. We're asking for a modest increase to 71.5 hours worth of driving time, and with a salary increase to $21.75 per hour. So the preliminary projection is $80,301. So key aspects of transportation are: it reduces isolation for folks, improves healthy outcomes for medical appointments, grocery shopping, hairdressers, etc. And it also enhances social engagement. And it gives people the ability to access services such as health insurance, energy assistance, renter's rebate, and Parkinson's groups. But that's the biggest change in our budget, is our transportation budget. Well, I'll go back to that. And then we have capital project, and our capital project is our 5310 bus grant. The Connecticut DOT will fund 80% of federal shares with a 20% local match. So our portion I have here is 30, but we actually, Kevin thought 35,000 for some things like if we have to number the bus or some. So we thought a buffer would be more 35 versus 30. But if we had to buy a new bus, it's about 135,000. So it's good use of funds is spending the 35,000. And you'll see some just numbers here. Clients served in 2024 was 145 people. Total miles for the year was 32,141 miles. Average monthly mileage is 2,678 miles. Total number of riders was 2,986. Average monthly ridership is 249. Total number of rides was 5,609, and average monthly rides was 467. The useful life of our buses are 5 years or 150,000 miles. So our 2017 bus, this number is actually a little bit higher, is 93,287 miles, and it's not in great shape. It's rusting away, and that bus we will be getting rid of once we do get this new bus. Which is expected to come sometime probably in July. So our 2021 bus has 56,357 miles, which again, it actually has more than that currently. And then we did just receive a bus, it's a 2024 bus, and it has 6,445 miles on it. That bus was expected a couple years ago, so we just received that bus. So for this fiscal year or the following fiscal year, we won't be asking for another bus, so we'll be okay with our buses. So we do need this bus for 2026 fiscal year. We also have the Dial Ride program, which consists of like mileage reimbursement, which is like caregiver reimbursement, or actual provisions of rides, which is door-to-door service. Dial-A-Ride, unfortunately, is ending May 16th, so they won't be offering any more actual mileage reimbursements. The actual provision of rides, that will continue until June. So we're going to be increased in number of rides we're going to have to provide for the remainder of the year because Dial-A-Ride will be ending. But then hopefully in June, we'll get funding again and have enough money to start Dial-A-Ride again. But in East Lyme, we have 306 clients registered, 88 served for the year. 716 taxi, and 156 caregiver mileage reimbursement. We do send out an annual appeal letter, and so far, well, in 2024, we received $2,530 in our appeal letter, and so far this year, we've already received $1,840. And with our appeal letter, we,
Can I
yes,
just ask a question? Is
Sure.
there, for the dial-a-ride, mileage reimbursement, whatever, is there any means testing of the clients
for
in
the,
order to provide
no.
that service?
So it's not like they don't want to ride our buses. They don't want to have to call somebody. They just really have no option. There's no other option. They don't have family members. You know, they live alone. They, we haven't done a means test, but we know, we get calls every day. This is not a choice. They don't want to be having to call us, and they're limited. Dial-a-Ride's only 12 round trip rides. It's not, many. It's not, unlimited.
Just checking.
Yeah. And then just on the next slide that I have was just the senior population. So East Lyme is 32% are over 60, and nearly 58 million Americans are 65 and older, with projections that are estimating the population of older adults will grow to 88.8 million in 2060. On average, a 65-year-old can expect to live another 18.9 years. And the largest age group in Connecticut was 55 to 59 years, according to the 2018-2022 American Community Survey. So our numbers are just going to keep growing. And then the next slide was East Lyme senior housing. So we have right now 563 units, and I read proposed 400 units are proposed for senior living complexes over at Dodge Pond. So currently, we have 563. And that's just units. That's not number of people, living in those units. And I have the 10-year projection. And of course, this is like our hopes and our dreams. We'd love to be able to renovate the senior center facility, which would include having a dedicated health service area and some new furniture. I just went over to the Colchester Senior Center the other day. Absolutely amazing. They have the health center, they have a gym, they have a 3,000 square foot multi-purpose dining room, a full kitchen. There is definitely a need for these senior centers to be renovated. We've had this senior center for over 30 years. And again, with the population increasing, I just see a greater need that's going to be needed in the future. So again, my 10-year projection, love increase in number of attendees. Transportation, I would love 24-hour notice to no longer be needed, because right now everybody needs to give us at least 24 hours notice. With Dial-a-Ride, it's 48 hours notice. And another new bus. Staffing, I do see senior centers, even Colchester, when I was just there, was talking about this. Folks are wanting evenings and weekends. Kitchen staff, right now our kitchens run strictly by volunteers. The senior center actually has 60 volunteers. We couldn't do it with all of our volunteers. They teach classes. They do Meals on Wheels. Some classes they teach are drawing, a writing class. We have a guitar jam. And again, our kitchen staff there's no staff, it's just volunteers. So for any special event we have volunteers helping us in the kitchen, serving. And then the last one on my slide was just marketing, just to improve community awareness and possibly branding, changing like the name, from senior center. But I know Kathy Wilson, the old director, had brought that up a while ago, and nobody could come up with a better name. And then just expect, like I keep saying, common theme, expect growth in demand due to growth of population that the East Lyme Senior Center serves.
So then overall, we're looking at a 3.10% increase.
So overall, yes. So the biggest increase, and we had the social work position at the senior center, and that's now moving over to youth and family and human services. It's a much needed position. We did have it on our budget for 37 and a half hours. It was ARPA money for 2 years, and that expired December of 2024, and then it was on our budget for the remainder of this fiscal year, and unfortunately she had resigned. So right now we're working with a case manager who's doing strictly applications. It's amazing, like, when you have somebody come in to do applications, what else you learn they need. So it was beneficial to have a social worker because then they could help. So I'm doing that right now. I'm actually acting as the social worker right now. I'm getting calls daily, work with the police department, multiple agencies, Care and Share, Legislate, protective services for the elderly, constantly making referrals. So anyways, so that's a change. We don't have the social worker on our budget anymore. The only increase is the bus drivers because there's a need for more driving, more rides. We used to have a full-time bus driver. We no longer have that. That was under the admin program coordinator, that line. And so we no longer have full-time. We're working on all part-time. So we don't pay benefits anymore, just strictly part-time. It's actually been working very nicely. We have some great drivers. We have 2 buses on the road at once. We have 3 buses, but the third is always just in case we need a third bus. So if we have a special event such as like our 90s plus T, we'll need a third bus for something like that. Or if we have a trip going out using our bus, now that we have all these part-time drivers, it's great. I can just call one and say, hey, we need a third bus. Can you work? And they're all willing. They're all pretty much retired, and they're wonderful. But other than that, the changes, really, we actually took off our program supplies and our program services line too in the general fund. We're using our special revenue for that, and that was about $10,000. So.
Well, thank you very much for all the work you do. I know it's much appreciated around town.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
On the buses, who does the maintenance on those?
Our garage.
What's that?
Our garage.
Okay.
Yep, our garage does.
And the other thing...
And they're grant buses, so I do have to do quarterly reporting with them as well. So anything that goes wrong, I have to let them know, notify them.
And the other question under miscellaneous supplies, you had an increase of $200. What exactly do you call miscellaneous supplies?
So miscellaneous supplies, it actually went down 200. I had it.
On the narrative it says 2,800, but on your sheet it says 2,600.
Yes. So Kevin, it is 2,600. We did lower it by 200. On the other sheet, Kevin forgot to take it off. So we did lower it by 200.
Question? Thanks also from me for all you do. I
Yes,
didn't
thank
appreciate
you.
all this before, so the details really welcome. You did mention the Dodge Pond growth that might add 400 new units?
Yeah, that's what I've read in the paper.
Okay. I don't know how likely that is to occur or the timing, but can you possibly absorb an additional number of people if that were to occur?
At the current senior center, no. We are so short right now with rooms, we have to turn programs away because we just don't have enough space. So, I mean, we do the best we can. I just actually applied for an AARP grant just to get like a room divider to divide our multi-purpose like dining room. So that way we could create like 2 rooms. Ask for some new furniture so we can easily move like tables and chairs, and because right now we have to lift them and fold them and move them, and the chairs I'm asking for are more stackable and they go on a wheelie cart, and so I'm hoping we get the grant, but there's no guarantees. So I got a grant with them last year and it was for $5,000. This year I went a little bit more and went for $25,000. Which isn't even going to cover everything. So we'd have to give something up because I don't want to ask for any, more money, or maybe our special revenue, we would have some money to put towards the remainder of what we need. But so we're just trying to gain like another room just by doing a divider because we have great programs and we don't want to say no to any program. And then we share, it's a building that we share with everybody, with Parks and Recs, the library. They use that big activity room. We did just get some new lights in there. We've got a lot of great feedback about the lights for pickleball, especially. So,
Question. Again, want to echo, just thank you for all that you do. Are there any annual drives? Are there ways for town members to donate to the senior center if they want
yes,
to?
we do get donations.
Okay.
We do, when folks pass away, they have left us some money. But yes, we love to get donations.
Anyone else?
Just how long do you think it'll take to get the bus? Is that one of those things going to take you a while to get?
The bus is supposed to come in July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so our buses are okay right now because we have the new bus that we just got, and what years are they? But we have two buses that are fine. And actually, one of our drivers loves the oldest bus. It's his favorite bus. Nobody can figure it out, but he loves that bus. But it's time. When we met with the salesman, he was saying like he had a bus in Florida that was 12 years old and it was like new, but the buses here, 5 years old are just because of all the salt and the weather, and our bus, it's not covered. Like we don't have a garage for our buses, and actually we leave them down at the police station. And that's the other thing. So our drivers are great. Unfortunately, they just radio when they get to the bus in the morning to save on money, to save on time. So in the past, they would get the bus, come to the senior center, get their schedule, and start their day. But it was adding like 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, because at the end of the day, they'd come back and get their schedules again for the next day. But anyways, by parking over at the police department, it can add time. But we're not doing that anymore. What we're doing is we have Schedules Plus. So they have access to it, and it's only to look at rides. That's it. So they look at their rides. I every day send them a schedule, take a screenshot of it, send them their schedule, tell them to call in the morning, because in the morning we always have changes. We don't add rides because we have that 24-hour rule. So if somebody calls in the morning, we don't add a ride.
I was just going to say that one of the things that the Capital Improvement Committee has been looking at, and it's a great collaboration between Public Works, Board of Ed, Public Safety, is looking at a better way to store our equipment to make it not only easier for the departments to access it, but also, in a covered space so that there would be less, of the rusting and the being out in the open. So hopefully,
Right, that would be wonderful, because I think it
Work all that
would
out.
definitely extend the life
Mhm.
of the buses, so we wouldn't have to go for a bus again. And again, so this year went for the grant, but the following year, we won't meet any of the qualifications to go for another one. And I think the next time we do go for one, I'm going to ask for one that's a little bit smaller, so we have a smaller one on the road. And the salesman said that actually when I get that one, all the drivers will be fighting over that one.
Good. So does anyone have any other questions for Kristen? Well, thank you very much
All
for
right,
coming.
thank
and-
you.
Thank you, Chris.
So next on the agenda was capital projects, but I think we don't have that material. It wasn't in our book, and so I think it might make sense to just table that for tonight and move it to our next meeting Monday, I think, 24th. But again, with that process, the capital improvement committee met with the numerous times and went through and proposed just not only the 1-year CIP, but the 5 and 10-year CIP, and delivered that to the Board of Selectmen. So once we get that, we can go over it on the 24th. Next is public discussion, where any of the public can address us on anything that comes under the purview of the Board of Finance. Do anyone want to say anything? Nope. Okay. To my fellow board members, does anyone have any comments that you wanted to share? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion carries. Thank you.